The final world of Total Death Edition is the Great Wall. And yes, it took me playing for a whole year to get here, and this is the final obstacle before we beat Adventure Mode once and for all. The Great Wall features 2 small pools of water in the middle, making these lanes technically aquatic, so zombies only spawn in 3 lanes at the start of each level. These 2 tiles in the front are also water tiles, which seem irrelevant for now, but they play a role later. But here comes the first of the new water ambushes. Random zombies are now summoned periodically in the 2 pools of water. As you can see, I pre-planted Doomshroom because I expected this to happen, but imagine if I hadn't. Things could have gone south very quickly. Aside from the new water ambushes, stray zombies now also come in the hidden 6th lane where we can't plant in. Fun, isn't it? Now, a good thing about water ambushes is that they're not random like grave ambushes. Instead, they spawn at a hard-coded time so we can actually predict them and counter accordingly. Speaking of graves, this level has twin sunflower zombies. You already know the drill by now, and at least we don't have cemetery grave ambushes anymore. But even if there aren't 500 random zombies spawning at once, I'd argue that water ambushes are worse than grave ambushes. In water ambushes, backup dancers can spawn directly on our cob cannons and instantly kill them. There's not even a single frame where we can use the Doomshroom or Ice Shroom. So yeah, even if you have fast hands, water ambushes are unstoppable. Just look at what happens here. At least with grave ambushes, we could use an Ice Shroom. In this world, however, it just instantly kills whatever you have in the water. It's nearly impossible to keep anything in the water alive, and the 2 fewer cob cannons are detrimental enough to cause us to crash. But the pools of water enable something even worse. Any zombie moving in or out of water temporarily ignores plants, making fast zombies like Jack-in-the-Box zombies phase through multiple plants before they can even be stopped. We previously countered Jack-in-the-Box zombies by just planting a chump blocker, but that doesn't work anymore. Like, how are you even supposed to react fast enough with cob cannons here before they explode? And since it works for when they leave the water too, planting a sunflower to block the way at the end of the pool is also completely useless. Even better is how catapult zombies from water ambushes are basically impossible to deal with because even cob cannon is too slow. And of course, it doesn't even matter because the game crashed the end. But since this is the water lane, we now have Tangle Kelp to counter Jack-in-the-Box zombies. It's actually really good since we can pre-plant them, and they even counter water ambushes by instantly killing anything that spawns. And thanks to Tangle Kelp, we kept all our cob cannons alive, which is an insane difference from our last run. But still, even this wasn't fast enough against the twin sunflower zombies. Now only one way to kill them faster, which is just planting more cob cannons. This time, we managed to get far enough where Gargantuars started spawning, but I can't explain to you why I didn't just use my cop shots to kill the Gargantuars. Instead, I just let them throw a million imps and kill our cob cannons before I realized. Yeah, I think the word throwing is right to describe what I was doing here, and I forgot to plant a Tangle Kelp, so we even lost our last cob cannons to a Jack-in-the-Box. But actually, this is enough to beat the level anyways, since we still had several lawnmowers and pool cleaners that we could sacrifice as our last resort defense. Thankfully, not too many twin sunflower zombies spawn on these last few waves here, so I got away with all those mistakes I made. The final wave might seem impossible to defend because of how many zombies there are, but just these few cob cannons are good enough to beat all of this since nothing is going to kill our cob cannons at this point, so we just need to wait for them to reload, and there it is. We beat this level. Now that was a pretty tough introductory level, but level 10-2 is already bringing in the big guns. It's another sunflower zombie level. I suppose you've seen enough of these that I don't have to explain what I'm doing here. We're forced to use cob cannons again, but as we know, they can't deal with enraged ladders, meaning we have to spend conventional explosives to kill them. But then, there are also football zombies in this level, and we also need to spend additional explosives to kill them. Very quickly, we don't have enough instant kills against everything the level throws at us. Water ambushes make this even worse because we also need instant kills to deal with them, and half the time, it doesn't even matter since our cob cannons just die instantly anyway. It's not even been a minute after the first flag and our entire defense is already decimated. Now, I had the idea of using cattail so we don't need to spend additional instant kills on football zombies, but good luck protecting these since all stars now charge past plants placed on the front thanks to water mechanics. And of course, since cattails must be placed in the water, a catapult zombie can just spawn on top of it at any moment and kill it too. To make matters worse, there are newspaper zombies. I mean, breaking their newspapers so that they can destroy our cob kittens is certainly a strategy. I did try. Okay, but why not just use Doomshrooms to nuke all 5 lanes at once? Pretty effective against ladder zombies, right? Yes, it's better than cattails and cherry bombs, but it isn't good enough since we don't kill the zombies quickly enough before the game crashes. So instead, I tried countering footballs using Magnet Shroom, but even this isn't reliable, since ladder zombies are faster than All-Stars, so Magnet Shrooms prioritize ladders instead. And also, yes, All-Stars phase through plants in the water fast enough to go directly to the 4th column, fair and balanced as all things should be. Even without ladder zombies distracting, Magnet Shroom is still not good enough since we still need to spend cop cannon shots to take out the football zombies after we remove their helmet. Is there a plant that is going to be efficient enough, where we can just instantly remove the football zombies off the playing field so we don't have to waste cop shots on it? Well, some of you may think it's Hypno Shroom, but we actually now have Tangle Kelp, which counters football zombies as long as they spawn in the water lane. And it has a fast cooldown, so it actually just counters anything that goes into the water really. But since they only counter football zombies in the water, we still end up having the same problem if they just spawn on the ground lanes. And we won't have enough instant kills fast enough once again to take them out before they kill us. And even when we are lucky to still have a defense by the 2nd flag, Tangle Kelp just doesn't help kill the zombies any faster for us to actually beat the level sufficiently fast before it crashes. I tried my best to beat this level without cheating. For over 4 hours, I spent countless attempts on this level just because I played it so many times over and over. And I mean, there are so many runs I can only show you the scale of absurdity that is this level. And you know the thing that makes me the most upset is that we actually almost beat the level by getting all the way to the final wave. I left only 2 sunflower zombies alive on the top lane, and literally, that was enough to crash the game. I mean, just come on, man! Well, unfortunately, I never managed to get to the final wave again, so after 5 hours of attempts, I folded and instead used the Extreme Save Scum to beat this level. The solution is as simple as just lane manipulating football zombies to go into the water lane by reloading the wave over and over again so you can save as many cop shots as possible. If that sounds dumb, that's because it is. Literally just a game of luck to get the football zombies to spawn on the water lanes so that you don't have to spend extra cop shots. And that allows us to kill the sunflower zombies just that little bit quicker. And I mean, that's about as stupid as the level goes, where the only actual solution is to force a type of zombie to only spawn in 2 lanes most of the time. And yes, that's about as fair as Total Death Edition goes. If you don't cheat by using lane manipulation, the levels are just impossible to complete for a human being. And mind you, this isn't going to be the last time we're going to see the sunflower zombies. Moving on to level 10-3, this is my favorite level in World 10 and you'll find out why soon. But since there aren't sunflower zombies, we can rock with good old reliable Gloom Shrooms. Don't get me wrong, Gloom Shrooms are great against regular zombies, but I forgot to bring a counter to water ambushes, so our defense died in about 3 seconds to catapult zombies. Well, it was fun while it lasted. But even after I brought in Doom Shroom to kill water ambushes, I still kept losing with any Gloom Shroom strategy, so I ditched Gloom Shrooms in favor of something, let's say, more fun and effective. Finally, Garlic is useful because it forces football zombies into the water lane so we can kill them using Tangle Kelp, which is reliable because it has a 3-second cooldown and only costs us 100 sun. Let's say that's pretty cheap if we have 12,000 sun in our pockets. As for the other zombies, we just let Doom Shroom kill them. Now, one problem this strategy has is that we don't always have Blover when the next wave comes, so our Garlics can get completely wrecked by the balloon zombies, but it's not that big of a deal since Garlic has a relatively short cooldown, so we'll still be able to deal with the football zombies in most scenarios. Even if your Garlics die, you still pretty much have time to defend off everything with only Doom Shroom because it's just that busted. But the real threat is actually the combo of newspaper zombies and balloon zombies. Since 2 Blovers is all it takes for a newspaper to break, it's really easy for us to accidentally kill ourselves by angering several newspaper zombies when we don't have an instant kill to stop them. And unexpectedly, this was a much bigger problem than I had anticipated. I thought just bringing in a wall plant would be good enough because we could just stall them out. But Giant Walnut recharges so slowly that it's completely impractical as a counter against newspaper zombies. Not just because we can't use it very often, but there are also usually multiple newspaper zombies in the same wave. And even with multiple Giant Walnuts, they don't block off Ghost Bucket Heads, which is a massive problem since we cannot kill them if we don't have Doom Shroom. I mean, it's already next to the house, so the rest is history. I then tried using Squash, since that counters both Ghost Bucket Heads and newspapers. But it might be a bit generous to say Squash counters newspaper zombies because, well, let's just let the clip speak for itself. Yeah, well, as if this mod couldn't be more unfair than it already is, the Squash ain't even squashing zombies properly now because of its dumb AI. Like, catch me a break, man. I even tried mass stocking Squashes in the back for extra reliability, but something peculiar happens when you do this. The game crashed? What the heck? Nah, bro, you got too many squashes on the screen and we're gonna crash. I mean, Total Death Edition has finally peaked. Only in Total Death Edition does placing squash crash the game. And the game would somehow crash so consistently, for the lack of a better way to put it, just no reason at all. But I eventually figured out that the game crashes whenever a catapult zombie spawns from a water ambush in the same lane as a squash. Don't ask me how it's supposed to work, but all I know is that the game doesn't crash if we don't plant squash in the water lanes. Yeah, you have got to be kidding me. This doesn't seem like a big deal, but it means that our newspaper zombie counter cannot be pre-placed in the water lanes. So when squash is on cooldown after you use it, we won't have anything that we can use reactively for the next 30 seconds. And yup, of course, we lose again. It happened again in the next run against another newspaper zombie, but it also happened again with a giant football zombie, which is also part of the problem sometimes. And it just seems completely hopeless at this point, and the level appears to be impossible. But after more than 20 attempts on this level, I finally thought of a way to beat the level in a pretty clever way. We just need Doomshrooms in the very back, and well, let's bring back the in-game sounds for this part. When we use a blower, just listen for the newspaper breaking sound effect. And that's our cue to use the Doomshroom in the back immediately. It's much simpler than using squash since there's no precise timing required, and this counters newspaper zombies in any lane. At any rate, we struggled against newspaper zombies over several hours, and turns out the solution was just use even more Doomshrooms. I mean, that speaks volumes to just how overpowered Doomshroom is, since it counters every zombie the game can ever throw at you. It's just too fair and balanced. Well, it was certainly a pretty neat level to bring back the thumb strategy on since we haven't been able to use it for several worlds now, which is always welcome by me indeed. Upcoming is the toughest non-crash level in this world, level 10-4. It doesn't seem that bad at first glance, and since Garlics worked so well last level, I decided to run it back. Garlic is also decent here since it clumps everything together so that one cop shot can kill the whole wave at once. But there are more threats to our Garlics this time, including enraged balloon zombies that squish our Garlics if we have a slow reaction speed. The most notable one being the dancing zombies. For some reason, when they enter the puddle in the water lanes, they turn backwards and walk off screen rather than continue until the first plant in their way, and then start spawning backup dancers in the very back instead. And of course, these backup dancers will then walk forward and trample over our Garlics. But that's nothing compared to Gatling Pea zombies. Since they do so much damage, it only takes 5 seconds for our Garlic to be killed. You know it's bad when you can't even plant a Doomshroom without it dying to Zombotany Peas. Plus, Digger zombies are now spawning bucketheads all over the lawn because we can't take them out. It's the snowball that never stops rolling until everything collapses on its own. It may seem intuitive to just then go for conventional explosive spam against Gatling Pea zombies. However, it's not a matter of whether we have enough instant kills or not, but rather, whether they survive against the Zombotany Peas. And it's extremely difficult to utilize Doomshroom when there's not a single safe tile to place it in. Now yes, Jalapeno can protect our Doomshroom by deleting all the zombies in the middle lane, but obviously, this only makes it safe half the time because Jalapeno has a slow recharge. So it's not a real way to protect our Doomshrooms. If you think you're smart using Blower to block off Zombotany Peas, then the joke is on you because that angers all the newspaper zombies and you lose the game. So I learned my lesson next run and went with Chompers to protect our middle lane, which I mean, it does kill zombies, but it just doesn't make enough of a difference to be worth using, since the zombies still do damage to our Garlics way too quickly. Just look at how many Zombotany Peas there are, we didn't even stand a chance. Chompers sucked, but Gloomshroom sure is way better since they kill the dancing zombies before they could ever spawn anything. But I assumed that we could just kill the water ambushes with Gloomshrooms. It may be enough against most of the zombies that spawn, but in the particular case of sunflower zombies from water ambushes, this happens. Very well then. So instead of Magnashroom, I used Tango Kelp in my next run to counter water ambushes. But the way we solved the problem only caused a new one. We actually needed Magnashroom to counter Digger zombies, so now we get Buckethead spawning in the back column and nothing I could do to stop them. Don't even get me started on how easy it is for enraged balloon zombies to destroy our Gloomshrooms in the front. Yeah, this isn't going to work either. Yeah, all that effort trying to make Garlic work and we just end up using pumpkins instead. The pumpkins in the back will protect us from Digger zombies and those in the front will protect us from Gatling Pea zombies, while giant walnuts will serve as meat shields in the ground lanes. But you actually can't even use pumpkin here. Since pumpkins transform into Squash Upon Death in Total Death Edition, when a catapult zombie spawns from a one-door ambush, oh, you have got to be joking right now. And now Pumpkin is out of the picture, we can't defend Digger Zombies since Buckethead Zombies just spawn on top of our Gloom Shrooms. Well, what a nice waste of time trying out strategies that don't work. So after all that, we ended up just using Cop Cannons again. But even Cop Cannon isn't good enough here, since our walnuts are getting destroyed faster than we can replace them. Which means that even with triple stun producers, the chances of us beating the level are absolutely zero since we can't replace our lost Cop Cannons fast enough to keep up with the zombies. We can't even just include extra instant kills like Squash in our loadout and expect them to do something, since most instant kills can't do anything if there is no board space to place them. This is just a sad way to go out against a Ghost Buckethead. I spent a ridiculous 3 hours trying to beat this level, and there is just no way to beat the Horde. Honestly, I don't have anything to say other than to put it very simply that Gatling Pea zombies are simply unstoppable and wreck our whole defense every single time, and I can't find a way to deal with them efficiently enough. And I sound like a broken record by saying this again, but yes, I had to make use of extreme safe scum to beat this level too. But just to clarify, this level has been beaten legitimately before, and I've also tried the strategy for myself. But I find that without imitated Cop Cannons, you lose against Digger Zombies no matter what if they just spawn too far apart. I will link the legitimate solution in the description below if you're interested, but I couldn't be bothered to sit here for 5 hours, so Save Scum is what I did, and for everyone's sake, I will not show any more levels that require us to Save Scum in World 10. Level 10-5 is Big Trouble Little Zombie but on the Great Wall instead of the pool, and we get some different plans this time around, but that won't be relevant because if you remember the glitch we used at the end of World 9 where we clogged the conveyor belt with trash to get new plants infinitely fast, then it should be pretty obvious how you can beat this level too because, well, it's a conveyor belt level. So we just have to do the same thing I did previously, fill up the conveyor belt and then spam the new plants we get from it. This time, we have cherry bombs, so with infinite cherry bombs at the ready, I think you can see our path to victory here. It's not a problem we don't get any lily pads when we have an infinite stream of cherry bombs from the conveyor belt. There are also just no sunflower zombies here, so there's no risk of actually losing by the game crashing, so yeah. It's just cherry bombs fiesta until everyone is dead, and this level is pretty damn easy. Moving right along. That level was probably the easiest so far in the TD mod, but level 10-6? Oh, you have got to be kidding me again. Now here's a fun fact about the choose your seed screen in Plants vs Zombies. The number of each zombie here actually tells you how often that zombie will spawn during the level. There are literally more sunflower zombies than Conehead zombies in this level. Not like this even matters though, because I'm just more annoyed with playing another sunflower zombie level, and it's just the same strategy with Cop Cannons again. And you know what? It's not even worth playing because you just crash anyway. And since I already know I won't be able to beat this without RNG manipulation, I'm not making you watch me do the same Save Scum strategy again, so I'm skipping this level altogether. Thankfully, level 10-7 isn't another sunflower zombie level, but I chose Cop Cannons again. This level is awfully similar to level 10-4 because we're practically using the same strategy again. Walnuts against pea shooter zombies, Cherry Bomb as an additional supporting explosive plant. Last but not least, I'm using Squash because I couldn't think of anything better to use. And yeah, there are zombie bobsled teams, but they're not a big deal if you just use Cop Cannons and they won't do much. But of course, the biggest threats are Jack-in-the-Box zombies, which I was really lucky here and got away without having to spend anything extra to defend. But of course, we can't always be lucky, so we inevitably lost half our Cop Cannons to a Jack-in-the-Box zombie, and it's all downhill from here because I just didn't have any way to kill off the Pogo zombies. Which, mind you, ignore lawnmowers, so we absolutely cannot afford to lose our Cop Cannons this level. That's easier said than done. On top of levels that require us to save scum, we have to play around the weird glitches and interactions this mod has. First of which, I have no clue how the Tangle Kelp here didn't kill the Zomboni, so yep, goodbye Cop Cannon I guess? Yeah, even more annoying is a glitch with Pogo Zombies, which somehow, this Cherry Bomb didn't even manage to kill. And by the way, you should rewatch what happened in slow motion here. How the hell did the Pogo Zombie only kill the Walnut and Sunflower in lanes 2 and 3? And then somehow the Cop Cannon just magically got trampled by nothing. And then the Cop Cannons on the top magically died afterwards as well. When we're not dealing with the game crashing, we're dealing with glitches that we don't know what's going on. Yeah, well, I already didn't trust Squash after 10-4, but after that Pogo Zombie fiasco, I definitely don't now, so I'm only using Doomshroom from now on. If you just want to see how glitchy Pogo Zombies are, here's a literal bomb detonated next to 2 Pogo Zombies and then not killing them. Yep, so Doomshroom is our only solution. But not even Doomshroom is reliable, which makes this the more annoying to deal with. Like that Doomshroom didn't kill the Pogo Zombie? Oh, and I can't even kill it anymore because the Pogo Zombie killed the last 2 Cop Cannons we had. And obviously, we don't even have any more Doomshrooms left to defend ourselves. I mean, this game is just perfectly balanced with no glitches. But this level isn't even that hard in the first place, since just normal Cop Cannon usage kills everything that the game throws at us, and there's nothing special we have to do other than plant Tangle Kelps reactively against Jack-in-the-Box zombies. We wouldn't still be here if it weren't for this Jack-in-the-Box that blew up our Doomshroom on the final wave. But we haven't lost just yet because we still have all our lawnmowers, so this should be a win, right? Well, there is only one zombie that doesn't die to a lawnmower, and guess what happens? That is about as heartbreaking as it gets in Total Death Edition, and we were only 75 suns short of a coffee bean. Freaking kidding me, man. And that was exactly how close we were to beating the level on our next run too. And guess why our Cop Cannons died? Yeah, of course it was the glitchy Pogo Zombies that did that. So I put all my focus into beating this level, to not screw up a single time against Pogo Zombies. I was silent for like 90% of the run, trying as hard as I could to ensure there were no Pogo Zombie shenanigans that could kill us. And yeah, thankfully I didn't choke on the final wave again this time, since I still had my Cop Cannon, so we finally beat this level at last. Next is level 10-8. And yeah, this level has Sunflower Zombies again, so I'm just going to skip it for the sake of you guys. And finally, it wouldn't be Total Death Edition if we didn't have Giga Gargantuars on the penultimate level. Last time we saw Giga Gargantuars, we used the Kernel Pole and Gloomshroom strategy, but this time there are Zombonis, so Gloomshrooms are out of the equation. So one of the things I tried was just using Kernel Pole as a staller and then using explosives to kill everything. What I hoped would happen was Kernel Poles would hold Giga Gargantuars in place long enough for our explosives plans like Doomshroom to get enough value and kill them eventually. But of course, this doesn't work because I didn't account for the imps that get thrown to the back, which kill all our Kernel Bolts. And even though most of our Kernel Bolts died by the final wave, at least we made it there, but this isn't a good strategy for us to beat the level since we don't do enough damage. Another strategy I tried was with Gold Magnet instead of Kernel Bolt stalling, which may seem unorthodox because you may think of the Hypnotized Zombie as something you use to stall with, but it actually does a lot of damage, which is exactly what we need for Giga Gargantuars. However, this strategy is flawed since there's no counter against Ghost Bucketheads. The Hypnotized Zombie doesn't do damage fast enough, and that leaves us with the only one way we can kill them, which is by spending one of the large explosives. First of which, that's just inefficient, but that's besides the point here because Doomshroom whiffed anyways. Yay me! So obviously, we need Cop Cannon again. Well yeah, isn't World 10 nice? Every single level is just instant kill spam and nothing else. This strategy was supposed to be pretty simple, but I threw this run away by accidentally planting a coffee bean on a sunflower instead of a Doomshroom. Didn't take long after for almost all our Cop Cannons to die. Despite this, we didn't lose immediately, but Giga Gargantuars are surely the death of us here. Though Giga Gargantuars in the water die to a single Tangle Kelp, without enough Cop Cannons, we cannot kill the Giga Gargantuars on the ground. We're still at the wrath of RNGesus once again as usual, even at the penultimate level of the TD mod. I also tried imitating Ice Shroom instead of Doomshroom, which would have allowed us to get more Cop shots per wave. But just having an extra Doomshroom to deal with water ambushes is more efficient than spending our Cop shots, so that basically made Imitator Ice Shroom pointless. Yes, you could counter water ambushes without Cop shots if we had spammed the water with Tangle Kelps, but we don't have enough sun to afford that. And that is when I realized why Twin Sunflower is better than any conventional explosive. Simply having more Tangle Kelps just means we don't have to spend any Cop Shards or Doomshrooms on water ambushes. We can even further exploit Tangle Kelps by selectively sacrificing specific lanes. By hitting the Giga Gargantuars on the bottom 3 lanes, we make them throw imps into the back of our defense, which may seem bad at first. But remember that new zombies cannot spawn in lanes where lawnmowers were just used. So by simply sacrificing our lawnmowers in the bottom 3 lanes right before the second flag, we can manipulate the zombies to now only spawn in the top 2 lanes for the next 3 waves. And now as the second flag comes, since Gargantuars can't spawn on the bottom 3 lanes and also not the top lane, they all spawn on the second lane, which is a water lane. I think you can see where I'm going with this. What an incredible way to beat Giga Gargantuars without having to save scum. So, ha! In your face, RNGesus! I've outsmarted you this time, and thank you Tangle Kelp for your service. And since we didn't have to spend our Doomshrooms killing Giga Gargantuars on those waves, now we can spend them on the final wave instead, which is how we get the damage we were previously missing to beat the zombies. Just spend a couple more Doomshrooms afterwards, and that is how we finish off the final Choose Your Seeds level in Total Death Edition. Everything we've done thus far has finally led us to this point once and for all. The final level of Total Death Edition. And for this one, I'll let LifeRCCH take over. The hardest level in Plants vs. Zombies history, you guys, level 10-10. Let it rip. Oh, 4 cherry bombs. Oh, that's really lucky. Oh, that's really lucky, man. Oh, 5 cherry bombs. That's really lucky. That's really, that's extra. 6 cherry bombs? Oh my god, guys, it's so lucky. 7, guys. 8, yo, guys, this level, hardest level in the history of Plants vs Zombies right here. 9, oh, here we go. Oh, 10 cherry bombs. Oh, yep. Oh, what is this? Oh, cherry bomb. Oh, yep, infinite luck right here. Guys, this is the hardest level in the entire TD mod right here. Yep, this is the hardest level. It's the last level adventure mode. You know, it's just you know, it's just that. It's just that difficult. Yep. All right. Oh wow! Oh wow! Oh wow, where are all the zombies gone? Some people say the modder decided that we've suffered enough to finally deserve a fireworks show at the end of adventure mode. But my theory is that he didn't expect anyone to ever get to this point legitimately, so he just put a troll level at the end to tease us for getting here illegally. But yeah, that concludes adventure mode of Total Death Edition after over 120 hours of gameplay. Don't fret though, there will be more to come. We still have the minigames, puzzles, survivals, limbo page levels, and even secret page levels left to beat. Click on the video card on the screen right now to start watching the minigames in Total Death Edition straight away if I've started playing them. And a final thank you to all the channel members for your continued support after a year of Total Death Madness.